Hello. Ooh, that was loud. I would like to advise all those present that notice of this meeting has been provided to the public in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that notice was published in the Jersey Journal, the city website. Copies were provided in the Hoboken Reporter, the Record, the Newark Star Ledger, and also placed on the bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall. Written objections, if any, shall be made to the city clerk. Please rise to salute the flag.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Baller?
Here.
Mr. Cunningham?
Here.
Musco?
Here.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Mr. Mello? Here. Mr. Ramos? Mr. Russo?
Here.
President James.
Here. A small bookkeeping item, ordinance for first reading. There is only one, and it has been removed from the agenda. Can you just see how many? Can you see? Can you hand me?
Yep. Yeah, they'll let introduce this first reading.
Oh, I take it back.
Okay.
One sec. There aren't really that many people signed up to speak, so we're good.
Hearing on an ordinance of the City of Hoboken authorizing the acquisition by purchase or condemnation of a portion of real property located at 901 Sinatra Drive, also known as Block 259, Lot 1, Hoboken, New Jersey, now owned by Union Dry Dock and Repair Company.
We have several members of the public signed up to speak. Not nearly as many as I thought we would. Patricia Waiters, are you signed up for ordinance number 1?
I didn't even see her.
Move on. She's not here.
Armand, are you signed up for ordinance number 1? Please. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Armand Pohan. I'm the chairman of New York Waterway. I can hardly need to tell you who we...
Is Mike even on?
Jerry, is the mic
Is
on?
that mic on? This one's really loud if you want to use it.
Yeah, his turn up over.
Okay? All right. Okay. My name is Armand Pohan. I'm the chairman of New York Waterway. I hardly need to tell you who we are. We carry more than 30,000 passengers a day across the Hudson River on a fleet of 33 ferry boats. Approximately 2,000 of those passengers are Hoboken residents who use our terminal facilities at the Hoboken train station and at 14th Street. And when the public systems fail, we are the go-to option, cross-honoring with PATH and New Jersey Transit tickets when requested under agreements with those agencies. From time to time, we also perform emergency services, including rescues and evacuations. We save people time, and we save people's lives. For the past 30 years, we have maintained our fleet of ferry boats in Weehawken. This has been possible because undeveloped upland has been available for our use. The last undeveloped piece of upland, however, is about to be developed by its owner, Lennar Properties, and this has created for us an urgent need to find a new location. When you look at a map of the ferry system, and I have one here, the most logical central location for a marine maintenance facility is that which already exists at Union Dry Dock, which is located here. We have routes to the north, we have routes to the south, and Union Dry Dock is really in the center of our operations. What could be better than a waterfront property that has existed as a shipyard for at least 137 years? The Union Dry Dock Marine Facility is now the last piece of working waterfront in Hoboken, the last vestige of an important part of the city's storied maritime history. On November 3rd, after lengthy contract negotiations, we acquired the Union Dry Dock property as a permanent site for our maintenance operations. Now, through a most irregular process, there is a proposed ordinance to initiate steps to condemn this property. I say most irregular because neither the 2004 master plan nor the 2010 re-examination report identifies this property as part of the city's open space plan. Because in July of this year, this council referred the question of including this property in the open space plan to the planning board. And because now, without any orderly review by the planning board, as part of the 2018 master plan re-examination, there was a short-circuiting of the established process and a rush to judgment. I cannot believe that this council, which prides itself on process and transparency, would choose to resort to such old-style methods. It is irregular, it is unfair, and it is of questionable legality. The power of condemnation is a formidable tool. It gives you the right to tell a property owner, get out. For this, however, you must pay. We have acquired this property for $11.5 million in an arm's-length transaction. But that is just the beginning of the bill. You are not talking about relocating a pizzeria. You are talking about a unique piece of property and use, which incidentally must be located on the water. Now you must identify another site for us to relocate and pay the cost of that relocation. Good luck to you, because after looking for the past 10 years, I can safely say that there is no other suitable deep water site anywhere between Fort Lee and Lower Jersey City. Any possible site would involve millions of dollars in dredging costs, the building of piers and structures similar to those which already exist on the Union Dry Dock property, and unknown environmental cleanup costs. Even more important than these capital costs are the additional costs arising from bringing boats to and from a remote location instead of a central location. More labor costs, more fuel costs, more waste of human time, and more burning of fossil fuels in an area already struggling to meet clean air standards. All of these costs, which are in the tens of millions of dollars, will be borne by your taxpayers in a condemnation award, and if not, then by your constituent ferry riders in the form of higher fares. In either event, Hoboken residents lose, and all for the acquisition of some of the least accessible land in the city, a tract which far fewer than the 2,000 daily Hoboken ferry riders are likely to access in a week. I respectfully submit that when 2,000 persons signed the petition last July, there was no discussion of those costs and consequences or the long and storied history of this marine facility. It may be that some are of the mind that you should use the threat of condemnation to maximize waterfront
Sir, your
access to
time
the
is up.
site.
If you could finish up, please.
Okay. We did not buy this property to build residential housing or office buildings or a shopping mall, all of which should come as a relief, I would think. We bought this property, which has been a vessel repair site for over 130 years, to provide the most centrally located and cost-effective maintenance facility for your residents and for a ferry system which has become integral to the region's transportation infrastructure. The ordinance would frustrate that objective and will put the city on the path of protracted litigation and a large condemnation award. I urge you to adhere to your own procedures, await the consideration of the planning board, and work collaboratively with us to design and discuss prospective plans for public access. Please, give us a chance to work on these issues, and in the meantime, please leave us in peace. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Mr. Grossman?
Yeah, Arthur Grossman, 1025 Maxwell Lane. I think we all know that the waterfront is an asset of all of Hoboken. Okay. I think by now we know that all of Hoboken, all residents wherever they live in Hoboken appreciate the waterfront, and they know that this is something that makes Hoboken special. And so I would encourage and I applaud everything the council has done to date to complete this last missing piece for a continuous, beautiful waterfront, including to authorize tonight's action of eminent domain. I know there were some discussions and disagreements on what, when, and where that tool should best be utilized. I think the actions of New York Waterway and especially New Jersey Transit have put this to rest. So again, I urge you to adopt the authorization to utilize that tool. I'm particularly alarmed by the involvement of New Jersey Transit here. This is not my area of expertise, but I understand that the tool of eminent domain could be frustrated by New Jersey Transit acquiring this property. And I must say, this is sort of a disastrous scenario that is painted in my mind: a smelly, polluting bus depot, ferry service, and I'm sorry, I understand the chairman of Waterway needs access to the waterfront, but this is a repair facility in a bus depot in the totally wrong place. It is a nightmare scenario, and it's a terrible step backwards for us. It's not even, it's much worse than the status quo that we have right now with Union Dry Dock. So I urge the City Council to stand together and work collaboratively with the mayor to defeat these plans. And I would also encourage the council to include the residents in call on us, so that we all, in a concerted action of the city, can succeed in really completing the continuous waterfront and defeating these rather dangerous actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bonnie Murray?
Thank you. I'm probably not going to say what Hartmut hasn't already said, so I'll keep it short and sweet. The only thing that I would add is it's frustrating to hear something that feels like such a surprise after an election. I felt like I heard a lot of talk about making this recreational space, and I'm hopeful that that is still the idea that the City Council and our new mayor, Ravi, has. But for the entire community, I urge you to preserve our waterfront. It is our cherished asset here in Hoboken. I normally am not a fan of eminent domain. I know the implication it has on all our taxes. I also don't like the idea of taking someone else's property, but in this particular instance, I think it's a logical step. We don't want to lose our continuous waterfront. As a resident with 2 kids in the Maxwell community, I'm deeply concerned about the added pollution this will cause, as well as the traffic congestion. Sinatra Drive, I don't know if you've seen it, during the weekdays as well as on the weekends, but it is horrifying, the backup that we have in that area, and to add any sort of traffic congestion to that drive is not what anybody has in mind. But for the good of our whole community, I would love to see that preserved as park space. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Philbolt?
Good evening. Caro Tebow.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Last names are not
I'm
my
used to
specialty.
it. Yeah.
Either
that's
are
fine. I'm going to read a brief statement on behalf of the Fund for a Better Waterfront. It is as follows. Last Thursday, the city announced that a subsidiary of New York Waterway had acquired Union Dry Dock for $11.5 million, with the intention of using the property as a repair facility for its ferry fleet. The same day, New Jersey Transit advised the city that it will be entering into an agreement with New York Waterway for the option to purchase the property. 5 years ago, New York Waterway and New Jersey Transit announced plans to carry out the same disquieting proposal, including refueling of the ferries, parking for New York Waterway shuttle buses. This new refueling repair facility would have operated within a stone's throw of thousands of units of new residential development at Hoboken's northern waterfront. At the time, Mayor Zimmer, joined by FBW, Stevens Institute, and neighborhood residents called and wrote to the governor, New Jersey Transit's executive director, and the New Jersey Department of Transportation's commissioner vehemently opposing the proposal. This concerted effort was successful. In October of 2012, New Jersey Transit Executive Director James Weinstein wrote to the mayor stating, and I quote, "This is to confirm that New Jersey Transit is no longer exploring the acquisition of Union Dry Dock property, nor does the agency anticipate doing so in the future." Nothing has changed since our protests in 2012. The current New York Waterway, New Jersey Transit proposal is still an alarming and dreadful plan, not only because of its immediate proximity to a residential community, but because it will continue to be a crude blemish on one of Hoboken's most beautiful places, as well as depriving residents and visitors, not just from Hoboken, from all around the state, Hudson County, and preventing them full access to it. Like in 2012, it is crucial that we make every effort to stop this plan. This can be done with a coalition of concerned citizens joining with state, county, and local government representatives and others to work together to force New York Waterway, New Jersey Transit to once again withdraw this ill-conceived plan. We are counting on the power of people working together and our elected officials showing leadership. There are alternate sites for New York Waterway in Bayonne and elsewhere. We invite residents, developers, property owners, and civic groups to join us in our efforts to protect Hoboken's most precious natural resource. Given the recent information that has come to light, FPW has no objection to the passage of the ordinance before the City Council this evening. But however, this alone may not solve the problem. If New Jersey Transit controls the site, the city may not have the legal authority to condemn the property. New Jersey Transit might also be able to preempt any local zoning prohibitions. We hope that members of the City Council recognize the importance of moving quickly and decisively on this. Too much is at stake. We mustn't let this last opportunity evade us. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. John Gregorio? Did you want to speak on Union Dry Dock or on number? Thank you. Brian Murray?
Brian Murray, 1100 Maxwell Lane. So I guess what this really comes down to is a referendum on this council and your commitment to protect our waterway. We've heard the rhetoric in the campaigns and for years about a connected waterway and it doing everything it takes. Well, here, I don't know how this happened. A lot of the residents where I live don't know how this happened. I'm not sure you guys know how it happened because only a couple weeks ago you tabled a measure to file for eminent domain until after the election, and then all of a sudden, somehow in the meantime, the property got sold or is in contract to be sold or what have you. So I think there are a lot of confused people that thought things were one way, and now we're waking up today and things are a different way. So what are you going to do about it, I guess is the question, by any means necessary. I mean, have we gotten so soft here in Hoboken that somebody can just waltz in here and stand here in front of the microphone and say, well, you better do this or it's going to be financially a disaster for you to do the eminent domain, which we just heard 10 minutes ago? I mean, I'm outraged by that. I'm outraged that as a group, you're not going to be whatever it takes, whatever it costs, to stop this. I mean, this is ridiculous that somebody says, well, there's no other place. No, it's bad for Hoboken. It's good for New York Waterway is what this is coming down to. And there are a lot of things that we can do, even if, we can't do it as a council, but we can protest New York Waterway. We can boycott New York Waterway. I'm pretty sure they run on pretty thin margins that a 3 to 6 month boycott of Hoboken residents may convince them that Hoboken isn't the best place for this. Moreover, having those buses come down Frank Sinatra, we've lost a lot of parking spaces for recreational activities, runners, bikers, and now they're all going to be making that left into the parking lot there. Maybe we can have some ordinances where we don't allow buses of a certain size on Hudson Street, and that, you know, maybe the buses have to come all the way around, and we can make it really difficult for New York Waterway to operate here. Very expensive for them to operate here. As Hoboken residents, as a group, we have to say no by any means necessary, and hopefully it starts here with the council basically telling them to go shove it. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Fallick?
Good evening, council members, and now for something completely different. I'm not, for somebody who actually kind of thinks that property is theft, I'm really not a fan of eminent domain. On the other hand, just like everybody else, I'd love to see the waterfront be one continuous walkway. But I also think that transportation is really important at the same time. I'm also concerned about the city's budget. You know, somebody just bought this for $11.5 million. That's a lot of money. I think that's about 1/10 of our budget. I know that, you know, a lot of folks who live over there, you know, where there's thousands of units and probably thousands more coming, and they're all really luxury units, don't want to see a bunch of buses driving down the street. I wouldn't want to either. I just think you have to think long and hard. I also think that it's kind of funny. Oh, we'll just put it over in Bayonne because, well, we're the people who deserve all the nice things over here. Kind of, you know, I think that you got some problems. I'd probably vote no on this. I think it's a shame, but we can't always get what we want, can we? Thanks.
Thank you. Basil Budd? Thank you. Mary Andreka?
Okay. Mayor Andrek, 159 9th Street. It's about Union Dry Dock, right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't want you to do this. I do not want you to vote for this. I understand that it's in line to be purchased by Waterways, I believe. Man does not live by walkway and parks alone. We have a lot of issues in this town that are very important that affect other people other than going to a park or walk down the walkway. We take ferries, and they need to be repaired somewhere. Anytime you move the ferries, or rather you move repair somewhere further away, it's going to cost a lot of money. I understand it's $9.50 per trip. That's a lot of money. I remember it killed me when Sandy hit and I had to pay, I don't know, $5, $6 one way. That's $12 a day. So you can't take the ferry. I at least cannot. But they need to be repaired, just like our roads need to be repaired. I feel that the walkway is adequate. We have a lovely walkway, but I also feel this is a little greedy and wrong to any company to try to take it away by eminent domain. My grandparents' home was taken away by eminent domain, so I guess it's very close to my heart. I do not like that kind of force. We need to keep something there that will service the public, which a dock will serve ferries or other ships or boats that use it. This is so important. We keep forgetting. We still need to flush toilets. We still need to go down Washington Street. Yet I know a lot of money and time has been given to parks, and there's nothing wrong with parks. And there's going to be millions and millions and millions more for the park that they want down at the south. And I understand that because you have no more place to go park. But this is a viable business. And if anyone came to you or your home or your business said, we're going to take it away because we feel that my idea is better, this is not a better idea. This is greed to me. I look at it as greed. Total greed. We have plenty of walkway. One little vestige of a working dock is not going to kill anybody. You can bypass it and go next door, right by it. It's not the end of the world. It's not worth putting more money when we have other areas of the town to focus on that they want to put open space. So eminent domain is a bad thing. It's all bad around. I can't tolerate it. It's aggressive. It's wrong. It's a viable business. This is not a business that's not working. And it's a necessary business. Who's going to fix the ferries? Please. I mean, we have enough trouble with transportation. We're not looking at the big picture. We have to consider this. Of course, it's radical that someone would be against this, but it's not like we have no walkway. We do. We really do. We have more than ever we could ever possibly have dreamed. But we can't destroy other things just because we want to connect the little line that people can't walk around. I want you to vote against this. I hope whoever, if it does pass, I hope they sue the hell out of you. I really do. I'm sorry, but I would do that. And I know it's my city, and it's going to cost taxpayers money, but you know what? This is wrong, 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 wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Kim Heisner.
Hi, I'm Kim. I live at 1025 Maxwell. For a long time, there's been a goal to have a continuous path from the George Washington Bridge to Bayonne. Right now, this is the last property that would be the final link for Hoboken. We have people who are jogging, biking, pushing strollers in the street, and this is really the opportunity to fix that. Creating a bus depot and a repair station will magnify the safety issues in this neighborhood. If you drive along Sinatra right now, you'll see that all time of day there's backups. There's also Academy buses that go from Hudson Street, turn on 11th in the morning, and pick up overflow passengers on Washington Street. I'm not really clear on how much bus traffic a residential neighborhood can really sustain. Additionally, Block D of Maxwell will be commercial and residential. That was zoned in when the property was approved, and that will create more tension at this intersection, which is already very unsafe. Commercial tenants and businesses will have a hard time as well, because right now out-of-towners find it very difficult to navigate Hoboken, and creating a bus depot in the middle of Hoboken is gonna make that worse. As a mother, I have huge environmental concerns about the site. There are 3 schools in that neighborhood where children play all day, and you're gonna be exposing them to chemicals. And finally, for me, I feel that this waterfront should be remembered, but this is the last parcel. You have the power to guide what happens to this parcel, and please vote eminent domain and do everything you can to find a solution to preserve the waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Rockhill.
Hi, I'm Jeff Rockhill. I live at 1025 Maxwell Lane. I find it very interesting that now all of a sudden there is a viable buyer for a property that's sat fallow for quite some time, that in fact I believe the mayor and or the council was told no one was home to negotiate on. So I find that timing rather interesting, given that this vote for eminent domain is now upon us. I urge you strongly to vote to authorize eminent domain and consider that one of the tools to use in acquiring this property in the most fair and just way possible. I'm not suggesting that we necessarily use eminent domain. I also ask and urge you to reach out to the governor and the governor-elect and ask them to have DOT stop talking to New York Waterway about this property. I think we've got 2 parts of the state working one against the other. I'd like to see that stop immediately, and I'd like to see our town acquire that parcel appropriately and add it to the beautiful waterfront that we have today. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone signed We have no other members of the public signed up to speak on ordinance number 1. Motion to close public portion. Second, all in favor? Aye. Council members on ordinance number 1.
Want me to go? So thanks, I'll go first. You know, after hearing everyone tonight, I think there's been a sentiment across our community for a long period of time that predated my involvement with Monarch, predated a lot of people's involvement and discussion on Union Dry Dock, but there's been a consistent general view that we wanted to have an end-to-end public waterfront. Although I appreciate the chairman of New York Waterway coming here, I do think it's a little bit disingenuous for him to be critical of our process to add something to the open space fund and that we are somehow circumventing it and doing it, you know, outside of a normal process. Conversations have been had with Union Dry Dock on and off for several years. They have wanted to sell this or redevelop it or monetize it, the property, for several years. The fact that we, you know, as a government weren't able to be as involved as we should have been, shame on us. But here we are now. I personally am supportive of eminent domain tonight because I think we need to move forward to do whatever we can to protect the waterfront. I do think that as a community, we need to speak as a large group, and to the point that Mr. Rockhill just made when he stood up here. We all need to get out of the room and know who to reach out to within the state, and do what we can to insist that they rethink this, not only New Jersey Transit's involvement, but quite frankly, where New York Waterway should go. They're being pushed out of Weehawken because Weehawken doesn't want them. We'll have New York Waterway go and use their power of eminent domain in Weehawken and take that property from the current landowner in Weehawken. Why are we letting a private developer and a state agency make the decision for our community without any involvement from our community? Makes absolutely no sense. There's other sites that can be made within Jersey City. There are sites in Bayonne, but the fact that two entities on their own without any input from Hoboken made a choice to impact our community makes no sense to me. So if eminent domain is what gets us to the table to push it forward, then I'm supportive of it.
Thank you. Councilman DeFusco?
Thank you, Council President. You know, administrations are all about priorities. In 2004, this was recommended as part of our master plan. In 2010, it was part of our master plan reexamination. I don't think there's a single person in this entire room that doesn't want to acquire Union Dry Dock. I think that we want a continuous waterfront. We want beautiful things for this community. We ran an election based on ideas, and now we have a tough decision to make, which is, do we want to pursue this through eminent domain, which is a lengthy, legal, litigious situation that may or may not work out in the favor of the city, after we're already considering eminent domain in the Southwest, after we already have 6 acres that we need to develop at the BASF property? Where are we going to get this money? And I think Fund for a Better Waterfront has been talking to this administration and to Councilman Bala for years about using public-private partnerships to productively negotiate and buy this property from Union Dry Dock. That has fallen on deaf ears. So this is the problem that we have in our government, is that nobody is against parks and waterfront walkways. Nobody's against boathouses and bikes. It's how are you going to pay for these things? And if the only option this council has at this very late stage in the game is to approve eminent domain, then our hands are tied. I don't want anyone saying that this council is for eminent domain when this is the only option we're being provided. I found out that this was our option along with everybody else in this room on a Nixle alert. If this administration, if the next administration follows the same terrible communication that this administration has followed, we're going to be in lawsuits for a very long time, and that might be okay because our next mayor is a very well-connected lawyer. So I am very much for an interconnected waterway, and I guess we'll figure a way to make this work in the long run. So priorities, administrations, waterfront walkways, let's move forward with this. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to echo what Mr. Rockhill was saying about the fact that granting the authorization to use eminent domain does not mean we will be using it, the power. It's a tool, and it will help us in this dialogue that we hope to have. To Councilman DeFusco, it is not in the 2004 master plan, and it is not in the 2010 master plan re-exam, which is why we passed a resolution less than a month ago to urge that it be put into the new one. So it has not been a situation where it's been low-hanging fruit. It's been a property that has been, rumors have been swirling for a decade about potential sales and zoning changes and everything else. The administration found out last Thursday when you did with the Nixle alert. So, or maybe a day earlier, but that all being said.
I don't think they found out at the same time as the Nixle
all right,
alert.
well, no, I said the same day. I didn't say via the Nixle alert. But anyway, I think it's clear that we need to move forward and improve this so that we're at the table and we could determine what the next appropriate step is here.
Council President. Thank you, Council President. I would agree that we've been talking about Union Dry Dock for a long time, and it's too bad that we haven't been able to make any headway with it until now. We were talking about it several months ago, trying to move forward with these eminent domain matters, but then the elections got in the way. I would have to disagree with Councilman DeFusco that I do feel that we have the funding source where we don't have to work a public-private partnership that might create an unintended consequence in another part of town, like what we almost had to deal with the Monarch situation. We have an open space trust account, and it's specifically for the purposes of buying open space. It's too bad that we couldn't look to acquire BASF, Block 10, and the other blocks in the southwest part of town while still negotiating to try and acquire Union Dry Dock at the same time. And sometimes that's a fair criticism of this administration not being able to do multiple things at the same time. But one thing that is perfectly clear, and I think we all agree, is that having a fueling station and a repair station at this location is not an appropriate use of our waterfront. And there are other locations. Clearly, there are other locations. And I'm sure they're pursuing these other locations, and I would respectfully request that they continue to. And I look forward to moving forward this evening, and very much look forward to the mayor-elect, the governor, and the governor-elect to do what they can in all their powers to ensure that this results in an equitable solution for New York Waterway and the city of Hoboken, and particularly our waterfront, which is shared and enjoyed by so many people. Thank you.
I just want to point out in 2011, when I first was elected, I believe we added Block 10 to the open space list, and at that time I recommended adding Union Dry Dock, but I did not get support from anyone. And in all fairness to the administration, they did notify me that they were going to send out the Nixle alert, actually at the same exact time that they sent the Nixle alert. But I'm hopeful things will change as well. Mr. Farina, call the vote.
Mr. Baller?
Present.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher? Yes. Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Gianfino.
Yes.
Have a hearing on an ordinance to amend the city code of the city of Hoboken, chapter 59A, entitled Department of Public Safety, Article 4, Division of Fire, at 59A-31 staff to amend table of organization to account for the SAFER grant.
Motion to close?
Looking. We have no members of the public signed up to speak on ordinance number 2. Motion to close public portion.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council members? Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes.
Hearing on an ordinance amending Article 1, Chapter 46 of the Hoboken City Code entitled Lease Agreement at 46-7 to authorize the mayor to execute a lease with the Hoboken Family Planning.
We have no members of the public signed up to speak on ordinance number 3. Motion to close public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Council members? Mr. Farina, please call the vote on ordinance number 3.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes.
Hearing on an ordinance amending Chapter 190 entitled Vehicles and Traffic Loading Zone designated to amend loading zones within the city of Hoboken.
Mary Andreka, did you sign up for this? Yes. Thank you. Jerry.
Mary Andreka, 159 9th Street. This ordinance for the vehicles and traffic loading zones designated to amend loading zones within the city of Hoboken. That is applying to Washington? Does that apply to Washington
I'll
Street?
get you the answer before we vote on it.
Okay, because I know on
see that
the
ordinance.
plans, there's areas designated for those loading zones, but of course, more than 2 people unload at one time. So that has really never been ironed out. And I'm concerned why this is not part of that Washington Street project. I'm assuming that this is going to be reflective of that because there is areas that need to unload because in town, there's been problems all over because they put those bollards up and then they put up bikes and many businesses on corners within the city can't have their goods unloaded. And then they are fined tremendous amounts of money. One case is Mario's Pizza on Bloomfield and 8th. So, give me an answer now. I mean, their loading zones are designated. Is this all over town? Just tell me yes, not, or something.
He's bringing us the ordinance, but I'll make sure all of your answers are questioned.
Okay,
All your questions are answered before we vote on it.
Okay, because I'm concerned about this. I mean, we can't have businesses without loading zones, obviously, and I don't want them to skip on them or put them in the wrong places. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no other members of the public signed up to speak on ordinance number 5. Motion to close public portion.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. It was 4. Oh, sorry. That was 4. No, ordinance number 4. Do you have answers?
So,
I see you shaking your head over there.
Council President, ordinance number 4 pertains to 5th Street between Park Avenue and Willow. And with regard to Washington Street, there will be ordinances in the near future establishing loading zones on Washington Street.
What spot on 5th Street? What is it for?
Near the library? Do you have an
Council President, I believe that this is to facilitate a loading zone near the Hoboken Public Library.
Councilman Russo, you recall it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry. It is 5th Street, beginning at .75 feet west of the western curb line of Park Avenue, extending 40 feet easterly. So it's actually on Park Avenue, right in front of the library. Thank you, Jerry. No. Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
On Z 527?
Correct.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes.
The hearing on an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 192 of the Code of the City of Hoboken entitled Parking for Persons with Disabilities, 192-4, enumeration of spaces, to approve removal and additions of restricted parking spaces.
Ms. Waiters, I don't see you signed up for this, but you want to speak on it?
Yes, I signed up on all three papers.
She signed up on all three.
Jerry was here, I was here early this morning.
No, that's fine. I'm
All right.
not.
I did, I'm, right, Jerry?
It's
I
just
signed at
very helpful
11:30.
if you, and while you're up here, before I
Put the
start.
numbers.
Yeah, resolutions, what were you speaking on?
Number 5.
Thank.
Oh, no,
On resolutions.
that's ordinance. Oh, I didn't even get to review it. Skip the resolutions. I just do the public portion in number 5.
Okay.
All right, number 5, Mr. Russo, you on the committee, right? All right, is this ordinance to remove the ones that people no longer utilize, that you actually go out and check? Because some of these people been deceased forever, and if the handicapped space is still there, people parking in those spaces and was receiving tickets. I got like 5 on my block. I'm like begging you, please, like,
Yes.
I'll
Pat,
go
I
with you
don't-
tonight with the paint and we can do it together.
I don't physically go check, but yes,
Please,
they are
that's
checked.
how serious I am, because I need a place to park. Now I'm seeing how it feels.
Pat, give me the list that you have, and I'll make
Please,
sure the
I sure
director
will.
has it.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mike.
Thank you.
Council members, ordinance number 5? Oh, we have no other members of the public signed up to speak on ordinance 5. Motion to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council members, Mr. Farina, call the vote. Ordinance number 5.
Mr. Baller?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Aye.
Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes.
A hearing on an ordinance of the City of Hoboken, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving an independent appraisal prepared by Federal Appraisal and Consulting, establishing a fair market value on certain real property known as Block 10, Lots 1 through 7 and Lots 30 through 36 of the official tax map of the City of Hoboken, authorizing the issuance of amended offer to purchase said property.
John Gregorio?
John Gregorio, 107 Jackson Street, Hoboken. I've been doing this going on 10 years now. I'm kind of tired of telling this story, but I'm going to say it briefly one more time. 10 years ago, David Mello, myself, and a bunch of people got together and said Southwest needs a park. And we got together and we ran a housewife against a city council person, and that housewife became one of you guys as a city council, and then went on to become mayor. We played this game about eminent domain and et cetera for the first part of the Southwest Park. Everybody came up with 100 different reasons why it's not going to work and it's terrible and et cetera. And it worked. And because we had eminent domain in place, we saved $1 million in taxpayer money. Now we're in the same situation here with the second part of the park. I will tell you, being a resident in the area for 16 years, I've seen it turn from industrial into a place where people live. The area around the park has blossomed, where once we had oil tank farms and ink factories, we now have condominiums going up for $2 million apiece. And why is that? Because people say, hey, I really like being around a park. And all of the extra income that the city will get from all of those expensive condominiums will help fund it. In Jersey City, they have thousands of new apartments and going up just the other side of the railroad tracks. And one of the things that they say is, It's right next to the new park that they're building in Hoboken, and we're going to build a little walkway so you can go there. This is a transformative deal for Hoboken. Putting residential on the property is ridiculous. The area is already overrun with density, and putting more of that kind of density is just going to cause more traffic problems and et cetera. To push at this point to get rid of Academy, I don't want to see them gone. I think Academy should stay there forever. They have a nice one-story building that they take really good care of. It's not going to bring any more traffic, it's not going to bring any more density, and they pay taxes. Leave them there. If they want to build, let them build to code. They're allowed to go up 6 stories, period. The Hoboken Business Center, because we have a park, decided they're going to revamp their building. And they went from 2 stories to 6 stories. 5 of those stories were in current zoning. 1 more we got because they were going to turn their first floor into retail and restaurant space to service the park that we're talking about funding now. I think it's a transformative process for Hoboken anytime you can do a park. To just bring up one of the other points is, the people of Hoboken, when asked in a referendum, are you willing to reach in your pocket and spend more of your tax money to buy more property? And they resoundingly said yes. And now after years of accumulating that, we have the money to do whatever we need to do in Hoboken, in the south, if we decide to do it up by the dry dock, the money is there. We can use it to leverage with bonding. I think this is a great idea. I think all of you should be happy to make Hoboken better. Thank you.
Thank you. Basil, Bud?
Hello, I live in Hoboken Grande, and I'll keep it very short. I just want to reiterate the need for more open space. There are more and more families that move in with small kids, and even though the first park is very good, it's really not meant for kids. So just please keep that in mind when you vote for the ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan Kratz?
Thank you, Council President, Council members. Alan Kratz, 1245 Bloomfield Street. I urge a vote yes in favor of this resolution, this ordinance, for 2 reasons. Flood risk mitigation and fiscal responsibility. We have a very successful Southwest Resiliency Park, and I think it makes a great deal of sense, given the flooding issues we've had in Hoboken, to expand the park through the acquisition of this property. Mr. Gregorio mentioned the financial aspect of this, said that we certainly have the funds to purchase it. In fact, the picture's even better. We have, as a city, applied to the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust Fund, which will, as the terms of the loan are very favorable to the city. The first 19% of the loan is written off, 1/5 is written off. The remaining 75% of the remaining balance is financed at 0%, and the remaining 25% at market rate. So for fiscal responsibility, this is a good time to do this. It's a good time when interest rates are relatively low. This is money that's a pass-through from the federal government through the Clean Waters Act. Given the situation in Washington, this may not always be a source of funds that we have access to. So I would urge you to vote yes now while the money is in the pipeline, and we can move ahead with both fiscal responsibility and flood risk mitigation. Thank you very much.
We have no other members of the public signed up to speak. Motion to close public portion. 6? That's okay. Motion to close public portion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council members?
Council President? Yeah, because of the financing issues that have been brought up, I think this is a no-brainer to proceed with this. But I do get concerned when we talk about the overall Southwest Park effort, because it is an effort that needs to continue. the first piece was only a cornerstone piece of what should be a much larger park. I do get concerned that we're going to lose sight of the other methodologies in which to acquire more land. I'm going to respectfully agree with my good friend John Gregorio in that there is at least one circumstance under which I could see the Academy Bus headquarters being moved, and that's if we properly leverage our ability to rezone or create a redevelopment plan in the area north of the viaduct, where we don't just give away that rezoning without getting anything back in return. I attended a meeting at the Wallace School a few months ago where we were already talking about what would amount to an upzone, granted in a redevelopment context where you have to enter into an agreement to capitalize on that upzone, but an upzone of the Academy properties to the north. To do that without properly leveraging that and using that in basically a horse trade situation with their headquarters in the Southwest is foolish. It's an utter missed opportunity. So even though I'm glad that in this context, because of the funding that's being made available, that we're talking about further use of eminent domain, when we limit ourselves to only using that tool, we're going to kill the dream of any more further expansions of the Southwest Park after this piece. It's going to die. It's going to end. This is all you'll have. And that really concerns me. So I would hope that my colleagues here in the years moving forward would strongly consider making sure that they further expand to Southwest Park beyond this next piece before they upzone through a redevelopment plan the area north of the viaduct, because otherwise you're potentially going to court with an entity in the south while simultaneously enriching them without getting anything back in return in the north. It makes no sense to do so, and I hope we'll be mindful of that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam President. Looking forward to voting yes on this tonight. And again, this could be the cornerstone and the centerpiece for the entire neighborhood that we're planning to grow around the parks. The Hoboken Business Center has already expanded their operations, and we adopted a Southwest redevelopment plan that could continue to do that and grow it in a positive way, and this being the centerpiece and cornerstone of that movement. So looking forward to voting yes on this tonight. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Yeah, Council President, I fully agree with outgoing Councilman Mello. He's somebody that, became a member of this body for this single issue. And again, this isn't about parks. We all want to see a park. We just want to make sure that a park is built in a neighborhood that could sustain it. And basically, by only using this one tool, we see what happened. We had to wait 10 years for the first acre, and now we have a park that's surrounded by traffic, unsafe streets. We have buildings being built haphazardly in this area that don't service the park. And so one of the biggest frustrations I have is this notion that if you're not for eminent domain, you're not for parks. And that's what needs to change. We need to do sound land use planning that appreciates that there is private land around there, and that good negotiation, a vision for the future, cannot just deliver a park, but could be delivering a neighborhood that makes sense. So traffic has not increased in the Southwest because of overdevelopment. It's increased in the Southwest because we have not invested in transportation infrastructure in the Southwest until Councilman Ramos and I pushed for a Southwest traffic study. And I believe that we need to have sound land use. I'm in support of this ordinance tonight because I trust that the incoming administration will be smart in how they use this. And should they not be intelligent in how they use this tool, we might be fighting eminent domain on two fronts while still trying to fund a 6-acre park in the Northwest. I want to make sure that we're careful. I want to make sure that we're intelligent in the way we move forward, and I want to make sure the Southwest doesn't just get a park, but gets a neighborhood that makes sense for everybody. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Bauer?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantini?
Yes. Resolution A1, a resolution of the City of Hoboken of Hudson State of Hudson, State of New Jersey, declaring an emergency pursuant to NJSA 40:69A 181B to waive the 20-day period before the ordinance number ZZ29 adopted on November 13th, 2017 is effective to make said ordinance. Please call the vote on A1.
Mr. Baller?
Whoa, sorry. Did you all sign up for it?
No, they just wanted to yell out.
Cheryl Fallick?
Thank you.
It's actually the sole reason I'm here, more than anything else. So, correct me if I'm wrong. The last thing that we're waiving the 20-day period on is just to get an appraisal, right? Correct? Is that correct?
No, we'll speak to it after, but no, it's not correct.
But this is for that last thing that you just passed, right?
We currently have two appraisals.
Okay, this is on the last ordinance that you just passed.
Yes.
Didn't that say getting an appraisal for Z20, the properties, the southwest property?
Approving it.
Approving the appraisal.
Existing appraisal.
Or paying for it, I guess, is what we're talking about. Either way, I support appraising this thing, but oh God, here we go again. We have 20 days for a reason. I'm getting sick and tired. Look, if I can't communicate how much this bothers me. It's really important to me, the right of referendum, the right of initiative. I mean, if I cry, will you believe me? Why is this important to do? Citizens, let me tell you something. The outgoing administration had to pay some hefty bucks for violating people's right to citizen initiative and referendum. Is Councilwoman Fisher, is somebody going to die that we don't know about? Why? Why can't we just wait the 20 days? It's the law. Please stop this ridiculous practice. Plan better, do it in time. Stop eliminating the citizens' right to referendum. It doesn't matter whether we're going to do it or not. It's our right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Andreka? That's a good point. I know you don't think it is, but it is. And they didn't give a good reason.
Look lively here. Mary Drake, 159 9th Street. Okay, the word that puzzles me about this when I read this resolution is emergency. Emergency? Well, it's somebody dying is an emergency, somebody choking is an emergency. I'd like to know what is the emergency for this, considering that this property, which I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, is this nice little piece right here on this nice little map. Right here, is this block 10, correct? This is for the park. And what's the hurry? Eminent domain is involved again. 2 of them. You guys better be taxing the rich pretty good to get all this money, because you're going to be suing. They're going to be suing and suing. Just like Monarch, suing and suing. And we saw where Monarch went. Now, what is the emergency to waive the law? Is that going to be clarified to the public?
There is no emergency.
You're absolutely right. Then why lie to the public in this piece of paper? Is this what we can expect? To make people make decisions on words that are not correct? You'll pass it anyway, but why lie to pass it? I resent this very much, using the word emergency. That's deceptive. We had to go through a stupid election that's always deceptive. We don't have to go through our issues that affect this city deceptively. I'm appalled, because this is an eminent domain. You've got to appraise the property, then offer the poor schlub money, and then I'm not sure what you people want in this town, because you're going to kick out all these tax-paying people. And you know, oddly enough, they involve transportation. Academy, buses, ferries. Wow. How are we going to live in this town? What do you want in this town? What besides high-end condos? And you can't even get services because they won't even be able to get out of town. I don't understand. This is poor planning. Poor planning. Look, I would like to know what is going to go on this Southwest Block 10 too. Fine, this plaza, very nicely done, I have to say, but it's not a park, it's a plaza. What's going to go over there, a soccer field? Well, I'm really going to get a lot out of that soccer field. I didn't mind walking through the plaza, but let's call it what it is. It's not a park. There wasn't one tree in there. I was just there 2 weeks ago. Unless you put one up since then. There were these bushes and these planters. And you can sit there, that's fine. But this is ridiculous. You're putting us into debt. And you're using the wrong words, trying to make everything hysterical for people, an emergency to circumvent the law. How dare you people?
Thank you. We have no other members signed up to speak on A1. Motion to close public portion?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Madam President?
Yes.
Can we have Mr. Busek give us explanation as to what the emergency is, if there is one?
Sure. What's the emergency?
What is the emergency?
Well, we outlined it in...
Jimmy? Jimmy? Can you help him?
Squeeze it and then pull.
Thank you.
The resolution outlines in some detail the circumstances under which we are asking you to consider this resolution. And it essentially involves the acquisition of an appraisal from Academy, who has refused to provide an appraisal to the city and has thwarted the bona fide negotiations that we've already initiated back in July because they want this second appraisal. They were supposed to give us an appraisal by October 20th. On October 20th, they declined because they knew there was going to be a second appraisal. You've now adopted the ordinance. There's no reason to wait. Get them the offer and have them provide us with the appraisal so that we can conclude our bona fide negotiations and decide whether we're going to go forward or not.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman.
There's a reason of public process and transparency to wait unless there's a reason not to.
Correct.
So what is the reason not to adhere to the public process that's existed for quite a long time? What's the reason to subvert that?
Well, the reason is that to expedite the receipt of their appraisal, which they have refused to give it to us until such time as they get the second appraisal.
Democracy's never been expeditious, so again, what's the reason for subverting the process that's
Well,
open and
I
transparent?
don't consider it a subversion. I understand your point. I don't consider it a subversion of the process. The statute specifically allows for council to make that determination, and it's up to you to do it. And if you're comfortable doing it, then I suggest you vote for the resolution. If you're not comfortable, that's a choice that you have to make.
Council President?
We've never done this in the past, which is a question I've asked
Exactly.
before. In my opinion, no.
Not
We,
eminent domain.
since I've been on the council, no, we never have for eminent domain.
For eminent domain.
Correct.
Correct. We've had emergencies, but not...
Eminent domain votes.
That's correct, and
But
I
get-
confirm that with you. That's
I guess
correct.
the question asked slightly differently is, other than expediting, is there a material risk to the overall negotiations between being able to affect this today or affect this in 20 days?
No, there's no imminent, as far as I'm aware, no imminent sale of the property or anything like that. It would really be to expedite the receipt of their appraisal so we'll be able to know what they are contending the property is worth, because right now we have nothing from them.
But even if there were a sale of the property that you just alluded to, because clearly that just happened to us with New York Waterway, that wouldn't change our role
It would
or
not, no.
opportunity. The risk just goes on to whoever the acquirer is, and if anything, it actually puts value on the table because they would have identified a price.
That's correct.
So it doesn't sound like there's any cause for emergency other than expediting 20 days.
Expediting the process.
Okay.
When is the next date where the appraisals due from them? It's October 10th was the date. They missed that date.
October 20th, but yes.
Sorry, I apologize.
that's
October
okay.
20th was the date. What'll be the next date where the appraisal is due? Is it tomorrow? Is it?
We have to get them the offer first before we're going to hear from them.
Okay. So the offer could be given them to the next couple of days, I guess?
Well, we have to wait until the ordinance is effective, which is why we wanted
Okay.
to make it effective now so that we can get that offer out to them.
So when will the offer go out?
It'll go out at the end of 20 days.
No. If we pass this tonight, this resolution tonight, when does the offer go out?
It'll go out tomorrow or Wednesday.
Tomorrow.
But is there anything to keep you from just saying it's been approved and it's subject to 20 days and here's the number?
There's nothing that stops us from doing that.
Right, and you just have to wait 20 days for the public's, time frame. So why can't you just let them know what the number is tomorrow? I mean, they know what the number is, but why can't you at least give that to them unofficially tomorrow, subject to 20 days?
Well, we can give it to them unofficially, but we have to start, we then have to repeat that process 20 days from now, even though we've given
Right,
it to
just
them,
like we've
because
done
we
in
have
the
to start
past.
the
Yeah.
clock
Yeah.
again.
Okay,
So
Councilman.
they'd have
Second.
40, they'd have
Count-
effectively 34 days instead of 14 days.
Councilman Bala?
Yeah, I would say that while I appreciate the point that's made by Sheriff Fallick and Mary Ann Draca, that the people have the right to petition by way of referendum to challenge the passing of an ordinance on second reading, in this case, there's been absolutely no evidence or no indication of any intent by any member of the public to go ahead and go through that petitioning process. So while it's important to know that we're living in a world of realities, not hypotheticals, and a hypothetical is not sufficient in my mind to trump the reality of us to push this movement, push this this process forward through a real offer that would trigger their obligation to get an appraisal. I think that public interest to move and expedite the process along outweighs the theoretical desire, which is unfounded by any actual evidence of an intent to petition the process. So that's why I'll be supporting this. I get the points that are made by Dan and Cheryl and Mary, but there's really no evidence here of any prospective challenge to this ordinance, and I think it's necessary for the residents of the Southwest, particularly, that we move forward expeditiously to get this process going. Thank you.
Council President?
Yep.
I mean, nobody would rather see this sped up than I, because I only have 2 bites at the apple to actually have an official say on this. But I also don't want to see anything derail this. I don't want to see anything undermine the requirement that we engage in nothing but bona fide negotiations. This, to me, could potentially undermine that.
On what
Couldn't
date?
they make a claim? Excuse me, I'm talking.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. Let him answer.
I have, been supportive of this consistently for well over a decade, not because anybody told me to support it, but because I actually wanted to support it. So could you explain to me whether that could ever undermine our claim that we made bona fide negotiations, because we have to support that along with supporting our appraisal, do we not?
In the eminent domain process, once it's started, it typically is a battle, and a property owner will use anything that they can use in order to attempt to undermine the position that we take. If we send out the appraisal early, or we send out the offer early before the ordinance is effective, they'll use that as a basis that you sent it out too early and we're not going to do anything. If you adopt the resolution, they'll make the argument. I'm satisfied they'll make the same argument that there's no emergency and that the ordinance is not effective. The fact is that the ordinance will become effective anyway, but by the time the process is finished, because they have time after we send out our offer to respond. By the time they respond, the 20 days will have elapsed anyway. So any defect would be cured if there's a defect. I don't consider that to be a defect, but if that claim is made, that'll be cured by the passage of time.
I just personally think it's a bad look And this project means way too much to me to start making foolish moves that don't seem to be necessitated by anything.
Yeah, and to the councilman's point, this is one less argument that the property owner would be able to use against us in potential litigation
Right,
down
there's
the
no
road,
reason to
correct?
give someone ammunition to use
Certainly is
against
one
us.
less
Yeah,
argument.
exactly, that's my point. There's no reason to give them an extra bullet, to shoot at us with, lack of a better term.
Council President?
Yes.
I have a question. So, Mr. Buzak, when the offer goes out, how long do we sit around to wait for them to respond?
14 days.
14 days.
14 days. Statute requires 14 days. And we already did that with the first offer when we made it in July. They responded and rejected it. We sat down, they were going to get us the appraisal. They never got us the appraisal. We now have a second appraisal, so we start the process again.
So on the 14th day, we do not hear from them, then do we move towards a court proceeding?
That's correct.
And how long does it take for us to file the court proceeding?
Oh, that'll be filed within a week after that time period, or maybe less than that.
Is that business days or calendar days?
Pardon me?
Business days or calendar days?
20 days.
So, the 20 days are calendar days.
And I would take it the 14 is as well then?
The 14 days are calendar days as well.
Okay.
And we already have approval, we've already given approval to move forward, so.
That's correct.
Right, so this is, we're just in the process at this point. There's nothing.
That's correct.
That
By
will stop
adoption-
us with a new council or any changes in January.
That is
Until we go to potentially fund it. Everything from now through the potential funding is already approved, so the process can't be held up.
That's correct.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman?
Just to follow up on Councilman Cunningham's question, give me the full timeline. When does the property then transfer title to the city? If in fact we follow through that entire process?
If we follow through the process and we don't get a response within 14 days, when the action is filed and a declaration of taking is filed and the money is deposited and the order to show cause is signed, we own the property as of that date. So that could be before the end of the year.
Yeah, the two dates are December 4th is 20 days, and December 18th are 14 days after that calendar days.
So if they don't respond by then, it's possible we'd get it by the end of the year, certainly
But
early next year.
What's their response? Like, what's the type of response? I mean, just suing us, is that a response?
No, the response would be, we accept the offer, we reject the offer.
Right, if
they accept the offer, then we work out the
Right.
arrangements and we sign it. If they reject the offer,
Right.
then we continue bona fide negotiations and we say, well, where's your survey? I mean, where's your appraisal?
Right.
We've already given you two, we're still waiting. And then I can't predict where that will go.
Thank you.
You're
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Baller?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
No.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
No.
Mr. Mello?
No.
Mr. Ramos?
No.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantico?
No.
And the resolution fails.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public portion? Patricia Waiters?
Patricia Waiters, could you hear me? All right, this ain't for me. This is for the 2,027 people that voted for Pat Waiters and my mayoral candidate, Mike Del-Fusco. Thank you for all your support. In spite of the fact of me being sick, I couldn't campaign. I didn't lift a flyer. I did a little something on Facebook. I was surprised when people called me and said, I'm in the booth and I see your name. Why you didn't tell me you was running? But my tally, according to the paper, but like I said, you can't believe everything you see in papers and print out, the 2,027 people that I vowed to, and I mean it, I stood at this microphone in August, I got documents here to show it, that I would support each and every person to do what I've been doing. So at election time, I know I don't have the money to buy an election, so I run anyway. And I've been saying that for 10 years. I run anyway. I don't need no tactics, I don't need no scams or nothing else. But I'm standing here tonight a little disappointed because I canceled my chemo treatment, so that's bad, but in a way, I thought this was more important. These flyers that was surfaced at the last day of the election took me back to 2009, okay? Just to refresh a few people's memory. HCDO wins deframed man ruling from a flyer, okay? And you know why I post this? Here's some newspaper articles, okay? And I want you to look at them later. That's real disturbing. All our Hudson County elected officials made the front page for unethical behavior. What scares me with this election is if we let this go, can you imagine how many more elected officials will continue the same saga? This is scary. Because good, innocent residents and hardworking people that do things in their community like Mary and Dan and really get the facts, I feel bad for them because they doing all of this, and if you get a government official that's bootlegged, illegal, say I'm unethical and I'm gonna run anyway, you stuck with this kind of behavior. This is back from 2009, okay? And then when you use it to win your election and put Peter Camarama on every page, look at all the other elected officials and you doing the same exact thing. But what bothers me is to see my picture, okay? And I stood at this same microphone when Michael Russo and Ruben Ramos nominated Patricia Wade, as I was on a resolution, for a seat in the Hoboken Housing Authority, okay? Everybody know who lives in the Hoboken Housing Authority. Me being African American, for 10 years, I ran in this city and not one time I used the race card. It was dealt to me, a stack of cards was dealt to me. Pat Wade has never used the race card. And I still continue after each election to do what I do, act under the authority of the people. I serve the people in Hoboken, all kinds of people. All the things that you put about me in this paper broke my heart. But to see nationwide the media respond to Mr. Baller's flyer, it broke my heart. Because the real victim was Michael Del Fuso that they alleged did the flyer. What I'm asking for tonight is an independent investigation. And I took his whole interview on Saturday and Sunday morning. I want to see how many people stay involved and really get to the bottom of this. I'm asking for an independent investigation. Do not include our public safety director or the police department here, because that's a no-brainer, okay? So when you play politics and backdoor room dealing and wheeling, this is what you get. This is your outcome. It's scary, because now we got to watch our back and say, do we really have terrorists? I have small kids too, like you said on TV, Mr. Bowler, but what about my small children? I wonder, do elected officials think about their family and their small children when they do unethical things? That's the time you think about it. That's the time you say, if I'm exposed, what will mom say? What will my children say? My kids don't understand. I don't want them to walk past every man in a turban and say he's a terrorist. I want to get to the bottom of this. This is very serious. From our school systems to our church, we're seeing it worldwide. We're a small little city. Like that city where that man went in there and shot 25 people starting from 5 years old. It's scary. And it's breaking Pat Wade this hard that you are that desperate to sit in those chairs to do illegal things. I asked you years ago, stop running. If you're not going to act under the authority of the people, don't run. And I'm closing it with saying these articles are available for everybody. And I guarantee you, I'm going to tell you one thing. Please, please, everybody watching it, it's never too late. It's never too late to do an investigation and get a referendum started and let people know there is 4,000 people, okay, that came out that wanted Mike Del Fuso. And I'm going to support you to the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Fallick?
Good evening, Council. I was actually going to not come up, but I just wanted to say something to Councilman Mello because he voted no, and I wanted to thank you, and I also wanted to say, even though it's 20 days, you can still, you still had your vote on that, so you're still a big part of it. And I wasn't going to say anything about this, but I do hope that it's uncovered what happened, because that was a shame, Councilman DeFusco, and you know, probably not something I should say at the city council mic, but I'm going to say it anyway. Councilman Bala, whoever does your Wikipedia page, it currently reads wrong. It reads as if he distributed it. It's not meant to, it's grammatically incorrect. So I don't know who's doing it, but you know, I felt terrible about that. So Congratulations. I hated to put you on the spot like that. Congratulations for your win. But anyway, really, I was coming up here to just say thank you for doing that, Dave Mello. We know you were a big part of however big the Southwest Park gets. Thank you.
Hopefully it'll be plenty bigger if it's done right.
Mary Andreka?
Mary Andrika, 159 9th Street. I've always been a person to fight for what I believe in, and I'm very determined. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people like that, and the businesses that will fight the city, unfortunately, because eminent domain seems to be the way to get land in this town. It's a dirty way. And of course, parks can be nice, but they don't pay taxes, obviously, so I am curious as to how taxes will be paid in this town in the future. I suppose you can tax the rich heavily, but eventually they won't come here because they can't get out of town very easily with their cars. Most people that came here didn't come with cars. Yes, some did when I came here, but it's a whole different world now. I actually don't belong here because I don't have the pedigree. I'm concerned about Washington Street because it's not progressing very quickly. The weather's changing. The ground is open in a few areas, so that's not good because the ground being closed keeps it warmer. There's a date of July 24th, I believe, is to be the finished date, and that's just not going to happen. And I wish that the city would say this, and I don't know what you're going to do to extend it, because you certainly can't penalize T&M $5,000 or $3,000, whichever it was, a day, because there were a lot of factors involved. Since the 26th, when that woman walked in that area, the work has been so slow, and we lost a lot of good weeks of good days. And I'm very concerned because when the snows fall, and they will, I can't see all the holes very easily. And I can't expect the city to plow with barricades. So I am concerned. It will snow. It's not like we're going to be San Diego here. So I don't know if you've got plan B or C, what you're going to do, because it's not coming along. I ran out the Washington Street project report, and I didn't read it because I forgot to pick it up at the printer, but there are little incremental things that are occurring, but there's still visible barricades and holes. And I'm very careful, but you know, like I said, when it snows, I can't see the holes, and I don't know where all that snow would go. I'm really concerned, like I say, about what people want in this town in the end, because the businesses hurt on Washington, and I rely on them quite a bit, and I don't have to use a car to go in and out of town, so I'm one of the people that you want in this town. But if you end up closing, I mean, not you, if businesses end up failing, and where's your tax base, how do people even function? Like I said, you don't go to a park all day, and you don't walk down a walkway all day. You work, you need things at the store, toiletries, whatever. We should be a mixed town of various people and businesses. And with the academy and the dry dock, I don't know what kind of businesses you're going to get here, and I don't know what you're shooting for, because it is really limited because of the locale and the size and even the rents. So you always talk about bringing in businesses, but you have to look at all of this down the road, especially with the new administration. Please understand, people still have to go in and out of town. hopefully not falling. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Arima?
Jeff Oriema, 309 Fifth Street, Union
I was
City.
really close.
Okay. I'm here in regards to an ordinance that you have.
Fix this, please. Okay.
For an ordinance for towing. You recently put out applications for the towing for the city of Hoboken. And I have the ordinance with me. I tow for 5 other towns in North Hudson. And I was going through your ordinance, and I found a couple of problems with your ordinance that right now doesn't affect the town now because there's only 2 companies that are actually doing the towing in Hoboken. But for next year, from what I can gather, there's like 6 companies applying. The problem is that your towing ordinance doesn't have any specific storage requirements. It has a limit of 2 trucks that you need. You need a tow truck and a flatbed, which to tow in the city of Hoboken is not ample. Your storage requirement, there is none. Most of your surrounding towns require the towing companies to have a minimum of 10,000 square feet of outdoor storage, fenced, secured, lit, with signage. Your ordinance doesn't require that at all, which means that a company can come into the town and apply and have no storage or storage for 5 cars. The city of Hoboken, on an average day, tows 20 cars. So far for this year, the city of Hoboken towed about 3,400 cars. The problem with the ordinance also is you have a 5-mile limit from the town border. 5 miles from the city of Hoboken would be Cliffside Park, Bayonne, and Newark. You have a 15-minute restriction on time, so it doesn't make sense. If you have a 5-mile limit and a 15-minute response time, you can't do it. I'm right up the hill in Union City. I'm right at 6th Street and Palisade Avenue. Sometimes I can't make the time to get into Hoboken. It takes me 15 minutes just to get around Hoboken. 2 years ago, you had 4 companies on a list. You had tow trucks parked in the city. There was a tow truck at the north end, there was a tow truck in the south end, there was a tow truck in the middle, and your ordinance says that the tow trucks are not allowed to cruise, and that's what they were doing. And the purpose of them doing that is they can't meet the 15-minute restrictive time. Union City has the same thing, 15 minutes. Jersey City has 15 minutes. In Jersey City, you have to be within the municipality. Weehawken, which is your neighboring town, you have to be a half a mile off their border to tow for that town. And the purpose of that is for the convenience of the people that live in the town. I'm right up the hill. People come to me, they take the elevator from the light rail, or they come up the viaduct, they can go up the 6th Street stairs, and I'm right there. And I still have people complain that I'm not in Hoboken. Why is the car taken out of Hoboken? Hoboken doesn't have any towing company no more. And I'm just trying to get this changed prior to you appointing other companies. Because she's had a company on here 2 years ago, which was a very big company. It's Tomino's Towing. They have over 100 trucks. He couldn't make the time. Out of 1,000 calls, he made 200 in a year. So I'm just trying to get this changed because what happens is I can't set my business up to cover the town because I don't know what's coming off. Half the companies don't respond. And that's what happened in the last couple of years. The city has an AIM system, which you can go through your director, and he could show you how many cars are towed, how many companies decline the jobs, because we have the option when we get the call, we can decline it. And then at the bottom of that page, there's a percentage rate of how many jobs the company has accepted. I'm usually at 94 to 100%. I'm the highest tower in Union City into the sense of response time and actually doing the job. And the problem is if they let 6 companies in, it's going to make it rough for me because I can't keep the employees that I have on now if there's 6 companies. And which means is that my service to this city is going to become tough because I just don't know when I'm going to go out. And half the companies, if they refuse to work, the list rotates to the next company. It's just going to make it hard. And Hoboken is going to go back to the days when they had mile square towing, where they couldn't get a tow truck at all, that they were calling out-of-town companies to come in to do the work. So I'd just like to see if they could table this and change the ordinance, put some kind of storage in that you need a storage requirement. Because you're going to have companies coming in that have storage for 5 or 10 cars, and in one day you can tow 10 cars.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council President?
Yes.
Corporation Counsel, if you wouldn't mind looking into that ordinance and trying to see if there are any ways that any of the points that were made have merit further review, and if there are any problems with the ordinance, if you could recommend changes to me, I'd appreciate
Sure,
it.
we'll take it under advisement.
Thanks.
Eric Garrison? Jerry?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Eric Garrison. I'm a lifetime resident in Hoboken. I got the distinct honor to just set a record. On November 1st of this month, until now, I've had the Hoboken Fire Department come to my residence 5 times. Okay, water leaks, fire alarms, and lack of water, for once. Okay, this is a picture of my the building that I live in. It's all boarded up except for my residence. And the Hoboken Fire Department was there last night, and they had a nice time getting in there. So what I'd like to do is go to the second page and look at this construction permit that was approved by Mario Petruno. It says temporarily construct fire-rated wall and door at first floor hallway to restrict existing tenant access during construction as per plan inspection required. Now, unfortunately with that, the toxic dust and hazardous materials such as lead and asbestos, they can't read this permit. So everything's getting into my apartment. I can't understand why they would let all of this stuff, go on, with somebody living in the building. Not only that, the health official also approved one of the permits. Now, also included the transcripts from the November 1st response, and I'd like to see if I could play the audio for that, as you can read the transcripts. Let's see if this will work. Okay.
I'm only saying this because you do only have 5 minutes, and you did give us the transcript, which is great. If you want to keep talking, it's worth it.
Oh, it's fine. For the fire department, so you guys don't waste your time saying there's no access to the upper floors, the basement, or the roof.
They can't tell us there's no access to something though, because it's a...
Yep, glitch.
Yeah.
How you doing?
What's going on?
Okay, this is the beginning of the transcripts. Oh,
Is it leaking in your apartment?
yeah,
Oh, God.
in the bathroom.
Is anybody above? Anybody up there?
Place is empty.
Oh, God. Shit. When did it start?
Sometime overnight.
When was it?
Oh, 5 o'clock this
Oh,
morning.
God. Huh.
Yeah, this guy's trying to drive me out, so,
Why is
surprise,
the
surprise.
plastics up there already, as if they knew it would be leaking? Or did you put that up there?
I did.
Because it was leaking, like, really small?
No, because I had other incidences.
Oh.
It's an old
What
building.
building is it? Who owns it? Who's the landlord?
Seth Martin.
Seth Martin. And you're the only tenant?
Yeah.
And was he trying to do, renovate it or something, or get?
That's a good question.
But that's locked, so I wonder, what's going on up here? Seth Martin is the owner? You don't have a contact number for him, do you?
No.
Renovating the whole thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you had conversation with Seth at all?
We're not really on talking terms.
No?
Yeah.
What's going on? Is he trying to get you out as a
Trying to get me
tenant?
out, yeah.
Okay. Do you have an attorney or anything like that? Or you, is it like in a process of paperwork of him sending you notices and?
I'm kind of in limbo right now.
Okay. Okay.
Chimney.
I mean, it's a civil matter. I'm not actually sure, you know, what your rights are with a landlord. And I know that you do have some rights as far as you being in a building.
Yeah.
So. Are they working here regularly?
Yeah. Could you take a look at these the chimney? Okay, I'm going to cut this now. The fire department was there last night, and they had to cut off the water. Okay, and the landlord was ordered by Mario Petruno to fix the leak, and apparently they haven't done any work today, so my water is still cut off, and I had to get the PSC&G appointment today to take a look at my ventilation, you know, for my heating units. So that's where it stands right now.
Is your heat off?
Yes. Yeah. Had a pretty good weekend, I tell you. Got a little cold. So anyway, you know, I'm just asked somebody to call up these officials and say what's going on. How is this possible? You know. And I also sent out packages to the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times, also the Hoboken Reporter. So I think you'll be seeing this in the news pretty soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Someone should send the health department there because the heat does need to be on. It's in our ordinance, so.
Yeah, and what about the water and the sewage?
But in particular, the heat.
Sir, if you could provide me with your name and contact information, I'll follow up. Sure.
Thank you. I'm so sorry you're going through that.
This is the other side of the $2 million condominium.
I don't know what happened to... We have no other members signed up for... Whoop. Please come up, Elizabeth.
And we need to.
Public portion? That's resolutions. Oh.
Good evening. Tonight I'd like to offer a few post-election thoughts for your edification. To say that this has been a particularly ugly campaign and election season would be a distinct understatement. However, there happens to be a few ideas that, if actively implemented, could actually go a very long way towards, if not totally eliminating certain problems, at least serving to curtail and thereby minimize them. Firstly, people who do not happen to actively rent, own property, and/or a business in Hoboken should not be contributing to municipal election campaigns. There should be clearly defined limits and rules regarding precisely who may contribute to election campaigns in Hoboken. The people who contribute should have direct skin in the game. There should also be caps or limits set as to the actual amount that may be collected or spent on municipal campaigns. Secondly, the utilization and payment of underage and therefore ineligible to vote minors to actively promote election campaigns should be prohibited. If it is illegal for minors to vote, it should likewise be illegal to use them as shills, whether they are paid or not. Thirdly, on Election Day morning, there were quite a number of people who were seen actively electioneering, positioned uncomfortably near polling places, including either right out here in front of or in back of City Hall, including certain candidates themselves. In some instances, the police were present but did nothing to stop what is considered to be an illegal activity. Anti-electioneering laws should actively be enforced. Otherwise, what is the point of having them? Fourthly, also on Election Day morning, approximately sometime before 9:30 a.m., apparently the incident of a broken election machine occurred at Demarest School. This incident necessarily begs the question of whether or not, and if so, exactly how many other machines suffered similar issues, either at that same location or even elsewhere in Hoboken. In any event, something of this potentially serious nature definitely bears investigation, to say the very least. There's a saying that one should be careful of the things that one wishes for, as one may very well just happen to obtain them. Well, Mr. Bala, I suppose it could be argued that the universe has seen fit to grant you your wish. Since it seems that you have been eager for a spotlight to be cast upon your words and actions, and therefore you, because at the end of the day, people ultimately are their politics, and therefore the political is truly personal, will continue to be scrutinized, this time at an even more intensive level than ever before. As I have previously stated, transparency and accountability are not nebulous concepts to which one who would claim to be a public servant pays lip service. Rather, these principles are the cornerstones without which any government will ultimately crumble. In any event, 4,976 votes out of a total of 15,124 ballots that were cast for mayor, which translates to less than 1/3 of that particular vote, can hardly be considered to be a mandate from the people of Hoboken. Likewise, a total of 8,054 votes for two of your running mates, 4,096 votes for Mr. Doyle, and 3,598 votes for Ms. Jabour, as compared to a total of 28,304 votes for the other candidates who ran for council, also constitutes no mandate, but rather it speaks of a city that has become widely fragmented. It is fair to say that many voters have become repelled altogether by the election process, seeing as how, out of a total of 37,281 registered voters in Hoboken, only 15,816 people cast their ballots, representing 42.4% of the electorate, or less than half. The onus will be very heavily upon you to endeavor to represent these people, since many in Hoboken, certainly by this point in time, feel considerably disenfranchised and disgusted by both this process and what has proven to yield for far too many disheartening results. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Hani Ahmed?
Thank you, Council President. Hani Ahmed, Hoboken. Well, we made it through it. It was a long process, a long election. I want to congratulate and commend all of those who put it all out there and decided to run for office. It's not an easy task, and we've just all been through it. And it's not just on you, it's on your family and friends also. It takes a toll. And some wounds run deep, and they're going to take a while to heal. So thank you for that, and congratulations again to those that were successful in their campaigns. Moving ahead to other matters, wanted to talk about a few things coming up, including what's going to happen with our city. We've discussed eminent domain, we've discussed parks, we've discussed traffic flow, infrastructure. There's all these wonderful things. We've seen them on all the flyers. That's a heavy lift. Now you got to come through with this stuff. This is the hard part. You know, to say you're going to lose 40 pounds and do it are two different things. It's easier to say. It's harder to do. But one of the things that alarmed me was that all four of the campaigns found prime real estate as an office. Normally you think that's a great thing. It's great for the campaigns, but that's not a good sign for a city. And then I heard that gentleman come up, and no offense to him, he's trying to run a living as a tow truck operator and a business owner, and good for him. But did any of you raise your eyebrows when he said they towed 3,400 or 3,500 cars last year? What do you think the people thought that got towed? Hoboken's a great place. I want to come back. We know our signage sucks. We've known it for a decade. We didn't do anything about it. The green and white sign, a white and green sign. What do we have, 2 crayons in a box? We can't figure this one out? It should be one of the first things you guys do. When someone comes into the city of Hoboken and decides to do business with us, whether they're getting a slice of pizza, a cup of coffee, or dropping a kid off to a daycare, and that car gets towed, they don't want to do business with you again. How would you feel? It's one thing if they just are, they knowingly and whatever disregarded the law. It's another thing when your signs are confusing. They shouldn't be confusing. I travel all over the country as well as you do. The sign should be, if a fifth grader can't figure it out, you got the wrong sign. It should be that simple. This is not the way we should operate. It's not going to be our success if we operate like this. We're chasing people away. Mayor-elect Bala, you have a lot in front of you. You don't have an easy job. As Councilman Doyle said earlier about the low-hanging fruit, a lot of it has been picked. A lot of the parks that we could grab that were there sitting there and we, during the recession, that property sat idle, they were grabbed. A lot of the ratables that were done all the way back to Mayor Russo and Mayor Roberts have been built. That's Maxwell, that's the T building, it's the stuff you see going up right now. It wasn't approved recently, it was approved decades ago. And those ratables are coming in now, but that pipeline is drying fast. And as mayor, you're going to be asked to do these things, but you need the tool set to do it. You can't set someone up for failure and say, why couldn't they accomplish things? And it's going to take this body. Most of you are coming back. There shouldn't be a day to waste. You dream big, you put things up on these flyers, you got to produce. That's what the constituents expect. All of the major camps have said these wonderful things that they want, and the public responded they want it with you. Mayor Bala, you were very clear on how you want the entrance of the city to look and the exit of the city to look, and that the city should operate a different way. Well, we need to see that. And you're not going to do it alone. You're going to need most of these people here to do it with you, including us. And we're looking forward to a brighter future, and we want to see that. We can't sit idle as Jersey City grows and prospers and other areas grow and prosper, and we can't sit stagnant. If you don't grow, you're going to decay. There are options. These vehicles go elsewhere. And we need to look at the little things like this, where we park and how signs should read. The other one, too, is the bottlenecks, and I'm sure Councilman Ramos has brought that up in the past, and we need to work with the neighboring cities and the governor. We need their support. We do have a bottleneck on the southwest side of town that could be alleviated. It's going to take all you guys to roll up your sleeves. The election's over. Once again, thank you all for running, and now it's time to get this work done. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we have no members of the public signed up to speak. Motion to close. Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Miscellaneous licenses. Mr. Bala?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Aye.
Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes.
Reports from city officers. Report from the municipal tax collector, Sharon Curran, for taxes collected for the month of October 2017, $32,876,256.39. Abatement total $460,015.99. Report from the municipal court indicating receipts for the month of October 2017, $405,030.01. Claims total for this, UMA claims report. Claims total for this.
I think they're missing the dollar amount for UMR
Yes.
claims.
You have that amount? Okay, total amount is $1,537,489.78.
Thank you.
Claims for this agenda, $832,276.14.
Councilmember claims?
Can you give us the 2 seconds on the $1.5 million and what that looks like for the year relative to the budget?
For the group help?
Huh? The UMR claims.
Yeah.
For UMR, so, actually, Linda, would you be able to, provide a little color?
Smiling, good.
Hi.
We're running
We,
about
in terms of
$150,000.
budget overall, as you
higher
know,
than
we're self-insured,
$150,000
so we
higher.
would be running against the balance in the self-insurance fund.
I mean-
We expect to be under that balance by year end, probably by somewhere around 2 to 3 million. We
Can you say that
probably-
again? I'm sorry.
We'll be under the balance in the insurance trust fund, which is where eventually these claims are paid for, since we're now self-insured. Really will depend on what happens towards the end of the year. We're expecting some funds back from the excess carrier, and that will impact what our year-end balance will be.
So I think we'll be within budget.
We'll be within the insurance trust fund amount, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Council members on claims? Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham? Aye. Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello? Yes. Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes.
Payrolls for the 2-week period starting August 24 to 2017 to September 6, 2017. Regular pay, $1,750,199.38. Overtime pay, $173,879.07. Other pay, $162,200.67. For a total of $2,086,279.12.
Council members on payroll? Wait, I think we have an update.
Oh, it's from October, the dates are wrong. It's from October 19th to November 1st. October 19th
Good catch,
to
Jerry.
November 1st, 2017.
Please call the vote on payroll.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham? Aye. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello? Yes. Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes. We have no members of the public signed up to speak on resolutions, right?
Right.
Motion to close public portion?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council members on resolutions? Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Cunningham? Aye. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Mello? Yes. Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Giantino.
Yes. New business?
Motion to close.
You know, Council President, I would like to...
You hesitated, Councilman.
Well, I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted to offer up any commentary on the awful events of last weekend, and I certainly would. I'd first like to congratulate Mayor-elect Bala on a hard-fought victory. 486 votes separated his win from where I sit today. What I haven't heard in the news and the press interviews being granted by our new mayor-elect is that there have been two affected parties by this heinous crime. Certainly one in attacking the religion of Mayor-elect Bala, but two in attacking me and defaming my name as a racist. And I know that it seems absurd that the first openly elected gay councilman in the city could say those words. And I thought the same thing. I said, the Hoboken population is smarter than this. We're better than this. But sure enough, I've been fielding calls day in and day out from people that actually believe it. I've received texts, messages, yelling at me. During the course of this campaign, my young niece learned how to speak. And because she didn't see me, she associated my name with my campaign logo. And when my sister was standing out the day before Election Day with my young niece, and she was attacked for being a racist, how do you think my family felt, Councilman Bala? And The moral authority of the mayor is more than just legal, and I know that's tough coming from a lawyer, but you have every right to be frustrated and saddened, but you also have to speak out that there were two aggrieved parties. And the election is over, you won. But now the time has come to bring this community together and help acknowledge the fact that this crime was against both of us. And when I reached out to you last week and I asked you to contribute to a reward to find who is responsible for this, and you said, well, if I decide to, I'll let you know. That's not fixing the wound. That's only dividing this further. I'm going to play everybody a message, just so you all know what it's like to be me right now, about what this sounds like.
Educate yourself and figure out what the difference is. Before printing out posters, you should educate yourself and figure out what the difference between a Muslim and a Sikh is. Thank you, dumbass. Fucking racist piece of shit. Got your ass kicked.
Those are just two from today. From today. There's a reason young people do not do what I did, because this is what happens when you stand up for what you believe in. This is what happens when a colleague of yours that disagrees with you stands up against you. You don't stand next to them. You have my support as the mayor, but you do not have my respect. I have a partner. He's Guatemalan. He said to me, he says, I never expected this to happen in a free country like America. I expected to see this in Guatemala, in the third world, but never here. So if you think that you're the only victim here, Mayor-elect, I have a sad story. You are not. My family continues to be attacked. I continue to be attacked. And if you don't stand with me, that's your choice. But it is morally corrupt. So I ask you again, please stand with me. Help me raise money for the fund offering a reward to find who is responsible for this. And I ask every member of this council, everybody sitting in here, that if you do care about an election stolen, if you do care about a man's name dragged through the mud, if you do care about a religion disrespected, donate $5. Donate $10. Our government deserves better than what happened. And this is more than politics. This is doing what is right. Thank you very much.
Councilman, Council President?
Yes.
Yeah, to the extent that your family and you yourself have been subject, or particularly your family, I do regret that. That said, there is an active police investigation that's ongoing. That investigation is into all 6 campaigns, as well as other hate groups. At this time, it's not appropriate for, I believe, any of us to make opinions or draw conclusions or opine on who may or may not have been involved in the incident that has impacted both of us. If there comes a time in which whoever did this is apprehended and you are absolved as a campaign and your people next to you, I'd be happy to go ahead and express my remorse. But at this point in time, where we have an active police investigation, I think it's very appropriate that we defer to Chief Ferranti, who I have the utmost confidence in his professionalism and the professionalism of the Hoboken Police Department, as well as the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office and any other law enforcement agencies involved. Thank you.
Mayor-elect, did you just accuse me of smearing my name? Because I asked you to help fund a reward that will lead, financially incentivize, finding who is responsible for this heinous act against both our names. And it said like a true attorney, without heart and without a belief in your fellow man, that you would even say that into the microphone. So it was simply an ask to stand by me as I fund a reward to find out who did this to the both of us. And if you don't feel that it's your place, if you feel like you'd rather be giving press interviews on national news without talking about the full story, that's your choice. And you've made it. It is public. This is your first choice as mayor-elect, was to ride fake news and a sympathy for you and not stand up after an election that you had won to defend somebody's name that I think you know in your heart was not responsible for this. Because what smart person that was head and head with you in this race would ever shoot themselves in the foot at the 11th hour before an election in a liberal city like Hoboken? It just doesn't make sense.
Michael, you're obviously very...
Of course, sir, I am upset about this.
Yeah, you're very sore, and I understand that.
I 100% doubt he's sore because he lost the election. I think he's more sore because I saw his mother get cursed on a corner and called a racist on election day. He's more sore about that than losing an election. And I can't believe the stuff's coming out of your mouth saying, I can't support you, Councilman DeFusco, or just Michael. Not even Councilman DeFusco, the person, the human being. I can't believe what I'm hearing right now tonight. Okay. I'm stunned. And I'm not stunned by anything. But my God, just say, you know what, Michael? That stinks. I have your back. Michael, I support you. I will donate to you.
Ruben, you don't faze me. You don't faze. At this point, you don't faze me at all. Okay, so stop with the grandstanding. No,
what about a grandstand here? Everyone knows me here. I never grandstand.
I'm the only one.
I never grandstand.
You and Michael are grandstanding. I'm the only one who's not grandstanding.
I never grandstand, Robbie.
You're doing it right now, sir.
Please.
Now, it's hard for me to have a lot of heart or remorse for you.
Councilman?
Yep.
This is new business, and if anyone doesn't grandstand, it's actually me. So we're in new business. Please stick to new business, and if there is no new business, I'd like to make a motion to close. You both can go speak. All in favor?
Aye.